This is a review for Season 6, Episode 6 of Game of Thrones. If you follow me on social media, you know that I just moved and I'm without internet and I won't have internet until Friday. So even though I recorded this Monday morning, getting it published and uploaded to YouTube might be a little bit late this week. So if it's like Thursday, Friday before you're seeing this published video, I really apologize for it. And it's just because moving is a huge pain in the ass. So I'm going to start in a different order this week. I'm going to go to Essos and then back to Westeros, and then I'm going to end with Essos. Braavos. So Arya once more is watching a play and learning about the state of Westeros, even if it's skewed. And Arya and Bran this episode basically were getting recaps similar to how we do. Previously on Game of Thrones, lots of fucked up shit happened while you were beyond the wall and you were wandering around. And I think Bran is technically illegally downloading HBO's content at this point, so Bran, expect a cease and desist letter any moment now. So in the play that Arya is watching, Joffrey dies, and Arya is the only one in the crowd smiling and then laughing. Seeing that little shit die made her happy, and she's also a bit amused about how warped the play reality is. But then she realized what Joffrey dying really meant as the actress sobbed over the actor portraying him. That was a boy that died and left behind a parent that mourned him being gone, and most likely others mourned him as well. Arya has these people on her list, but they still have people, for the most part, that love them and would be hurt if they died, which bled into her advice to the actress later in the show. Cersei wouldn't just be sad, she'd be angry and want to do anything to kill the people responsible. And I think this is where Arya's brain is turning and mulling over things. And not to sidetrack too much, but this is what I loved about Kill Bill when the bride killed Copperhead and then she discovered that the dead woman's daughter had watched her kill her. And she tells the little girl, hey, your mom had this coming, but if you grow up and you're still raw about this, I'll be waiting. And similarly, we have Illyria in the books at least, who is trying to talk down the Sand Snakes and let them know that when does this cycle of revenge end? Okay, you killed this person for killing your loved one. But then their loved ones now have to come and kill you for doing that. And then what? Do I have to now go and kill those people for killing you, for killing their loved one? It's just this endless BS cycle of back and forth. And I think Arya is becoming more aware of that, especially through her training, and realizing that there are consequences to her actions and it's not as straightforward as, you're a shitty person. I'm going to kill you, and that's the end of it, and the world is a better place. Now, will this affect her kill list, or how she goes about her kill list? That's to be seen. But for now, what we know is that Arya isn't a soulless monster so intent on revenge that she's willing to sacrifice innocence in order to get the tools to do so. And that's what led her to saving the actress. Arya knows that things aren't so black and white. But unfortunately for Arya, the priest of the temple does want her to think in black and white, and we know last episode he gave her two very clear options. Either we're going to add that actress's face to the wall, or we're going to add yours. So you decide if you want to fuck up this time. And despite being given those two options, Arya still decided to fuck up. Or did she? More on that later. And there's a theory that the Faceless Men singled Arya out and brought her to the House of Black and White to use her, and there's a thought that they didn't realize how hard it would be to break her, and that they didn't realize you can't tame a wild wolf. Well, you could probably, I don't know, I think that's a saying, I may have made it up, but just, you can't tame a wild wolf. And what is happening right now basically ties into what a lot of book readers believe. Arya will never be able to become no one, and she's going to take the skills she learned from the Faceless Men and the House of Black and White, and she's going to go back to Westeros and take care of her kill list with the skills that she has. But there's the but I mentioned a minute ago. There's an alternate take on this that the priest knew Arya would never become no one, and that was the plan all along. He wants the waif to be killed because she has failed her own training and holds on to jealousy and hatred for Arya, something no one shouldn't have. This ties into theories that the Faceless Men went after Arya for a specific purpose. I'm not sold on this theory, and the showrunners really made it sound like Arya is in fact fucked for what she did, so I guess I'm going to have to wait for the next episode and see if the showrunners are dirty, dirty liars. So for now, I'm assuming that Arya failed, the waif will try to kill her, and the waif is the one that's going to die. And I do believe Arya is going to get back to Westeros very soon. Now when she arrives, does she continue her list and killing, or is she a bit more responsible or understanding with it? Finally, we got the Mercy name drop, different than the Mercy chapter we'll be getting in the Winds of Winter, but I always enjoy the little nods. Next, King's Landing, the Tyrell army finally arrives. Mace Tyrell's armor, I mentioned this in my trailer breakdown. I'm not sure how you can get through a scene with him and not get all hot and bothered. Seriously, his helm alone, I had to pause the scene so many times just to make it through that scene. His presence, his power, how is this man not drowning in pussy 24/7? I feel like it's an error on the showrunner's part that they're not showing women constantly just throwing themselves at him. Cersei Lannister has offered herself up to him at least a dozen times by now. This man is so important. This man is so powerful and so giving that he is willing to give the honor of leading his horse to other people, just so that they can stand in his presence. And Jaime's face said everything during this scene. While Mace is giving his speech, he's thinking, shut the hell up, but he's forcing himself to smile and not roll his eyes because he realizes what a powerful man Mace truly is. But the Tyrell army doesn't matter because the High Sparrow got into Margaery's head and won. Or did he? Margaery, as we've seen and she's admitted to, is great at playing the game. Margaery, of course, had a point that a lot of what she did for power, and so people would notice. But I don't think that really bothers her. During her conversation with Tommen, it was like she was testing the waters of where Tommen was in regards to the faith. She was very vague in her statements that basically baited Tommen to show how he truly felt about the man. When she realized Tommen didn't think the High Sparrow was an absolute monster and was swayed by him, she went full force into the game. So I don't truly think Margaery is brainwashed and she thinks that the High Sparrow is the greatest. She grasped onto the only power available for her and probably did it to spare her brother. You could see the wheels turning in her head when she visited her brother and saw how broken he was, and how the Sparrow was playing her. She knows when she's being manipulated, and she knows how to manipulate. Playing pretend and convincing Tommen to give Faith more power is part of her plan, even if it turns out to be a terrible plan. I loved how Mace turned to his mom trying to figure things out, and she's as exasperated with him as usual. They won, you idiot. Jaime looked equally pissed. He wanted to see a bloodbath. He wants the Faith torn out of the city like weeds, and the High Sparrow's smug face just wasn't helping. So they lost to the Faith for now, and this most likely won't happen in the show, but during the scene I was reminded of Rhaenyra when she took over King's Landing for half a year as the half-year queen during the Dance of the Dragons. And certain religious individuals ended up riling up the small folk and telling them, hey, these dragons are abominations, and led the people into slaughtering a bunch of dragons. And I wonder if the Faith is so firmly entrenched in King's Landing, and Daenerys, if she ever does, takes over King's Landing and she has her dragons there, if something similar is going to happen. Some religious individuals are going to rile up the small folk and say, yeah, these dragons need to go, and we're going to see another purge like we did during Rhaenyra's reign. But that's something that likely won't ever come to pass. It was just something that I thought of during this scene. What is important about the aftermath of this scene is that Jaime Lannister is no longer a Kingsguard, something he's been a part of since he was a teenager. That's a long time to have a job and then be sacked. But it's understandable. His job had a dress code, and Jaime clearly wasn't adhering to it, and that is a fireable offense. But let's talk about that armor for a second. How the hell did Jaime not know about this? How does the Lord Commander not know what the other Kingsguard are doing? And how did Jaime not know where the king was? His plan hinged on the king not being aware of what was going on until it was too late. You think you'd want to keep track of the one person that was important for your plan to go well? Fucking noobs. But I guess that screw up of not knowing where the king was kind of helped Jaime in the end. He's now free to marry and should have Casterly Rock, unless Tommen strips that from him for attacking the Faith, but I doubt it. Though the High Sparrow could have gotten into his head. Jaime likely won't marry if Cersei is around, but I'm crossing my fingers their relationship changes soon. But think about this. Tommen, a boy, accomplished something Tywin never could. I wonder if Tywin is doing a dance in his grave, or rolling over because of Tommen getting the Faith so much power. Jaime made a good point of telling Tommen that he is the king, and when he's sitting in the chair, he doesn't have to bow to anyone, which isn't always how things work, but for the most part with the Iron Throne monarchy, it has. But Tommen isn't strong enough or aggressive enough to rule like that. I mentioned a few reviews back that the High Sparrow might be turning Tommen into another Baelor the Blessed, which the small folk love Baelor, but the Highborn weren't as thrilled. If history repeats itself, regardless of the small folk love, Tommen is a dead man walking. After Jaime's dismissal, we see him and Cersei talking, and the wonderful line about Walder Frey being over 400 years old happens. This scene is fun partly because the opposite happens in the books. Cersei is waiting for Jaime to come back to King's Landing for her trial by combat. But in the show, she's telling him to go to the Riverlands and that she has her trial taken care of. And what a contrast the Cersei and Jaime scene this episode was from last season. Last season, Cersei is shouting that their child Myrcella is in danger, and that they should essentially do anything to get her back. Jaime was calming her down, saying don't yell that she's our child and he'll take care of it. This season, Jaime is the one screaming about their child and wanting to do essentially anything to get him back. And Cersei was the one calming him down. So here they are going in opposite directions once more. Then the scene ended with the beginnings of what I don't think we get enough of, sweet, sweet twincest. Which hopefully is the last time, as Jaime and Brienne are going to be in the Riverlands again together, and hopefully they can rekindle their romance. Poor, poor Tormund. And if you're up on George's reveals, you know that those two ending up together would be too cute given their ancestry, which means it most likely won't happen. So hopefully in the Riverlands, Jaime can see some better character progression. And I know some people have asked me about Bronn. Bronn is in the Riverlands. He's the one that gives Pod a choke surprise, so we are going to see him soon. All is well, and hopefully at the same time Brienne and Jaime can meet up with an old friend. Next, we're back with the Freys again. Walder is just as lovable and sassy as always. You lost it? It's a castle, not a bloody sheep. Presumably you still know where it is? There's just something so wrong about grown adults being chewed out by their parents. Poor Edmure, still paying for Robb's mistakes. But next episode we should finally see the Blackfish again. Sam and Gilly, seeing Sam's family wasn't the highlight of the episode that I thought it was going to be, and don't get me wrong, I think they did a great job casting. I think Lord Tarly was very well done. He's exactly like that in the books. He's described as a very asshole type of man. He's a very gruff man, not very nice to Sam, and I did love how kind and likable his mother and sister were, but it just, I don't know, it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be, even if it was comical and sad at the same time. I like Gilly trying to walk in a highborn's dress and looking oh so awkward, and I loved how she was sticking up for Sam during the dinner. I mean, she has Craster for a father. Is old man Tarly really going to intimidate her? It was a bit awkward when Sam's sister said, "Oh, Gilly, your father could teach our father a few things," and I was thinking, oh honey, you do not want her father teaching your father anything. I am curious about when Gilly revealed the White Walker information. Sam's brother laughed it off, but his father had a different reaction. At first he looked at his son laugh, and there was a little something there, but then he started to focus on Gilly's admission of going south to Castle Black. Was he realizing if a wildling said she saw a White Walker and started running south, there might be some truth to it? Likely he was already just pissed off about the wildling thing. However, Aemon did write to the Lords of the Seven Kingdoms asking for help with the White Walkers. So maybe when Lord Tarly first got the letter, he dismissed it. But hearing a wildling woman that seems pretty fearless in telling the truth talk about it, he starts to worry. Or realize that there was truth in Aemon's letter, if he ever got one. After dinner, Sam stole Heartsbane, which could serve a few purposes. He knows they'll need it for the others, but also to thumb his nose at his dad, which shows how far he's come. Sam, before he got to the Wall, wouldn't have dared to do that. Sam might not be an epic hero, but the experiences he's had, even in desperate situations, have shaped him. So now we ask, is Gilly going to the Citadel with Sam? I wonder how that's going to go over. Dudes usually don't want things with lady bits in their bro clubs. There's another thought that maybe Sam is actually not going to go to the Citadel and he's going to go back up north, which seems like a really waste of a trip, but I guess if you really needed Valyrian steel to defeat the others, it wasn't exactly a waste. But if he does head back up to the Wall, it could bait Lord Tarly into following him up there to retrieve his family sword, and that's actually a good thing to have someone that is a great military commander up where an army of the undead is coming through. Beyond the Wall, Mira trying to get Bran to safety went as well as expected. A 90-pound girl trying to pull a teenage boy. We haven't seen them a lot and not at all last season, but Mira's actress is so good. Fantastic acting when she was trying to get Bran to safety and holding him while saying, "I'm sorry." I'm still waiting on that Bran-Mira romance, but I guess there's bigger shit going on right now. So next, let's talk about Bran's visions. Aerys II, they as always did an incredible job with the casting. He looked so much like Viserys. He looked far more well kept than I thought he'd be. I was expecting long fingernails and super long unwashed hair, but I guess he looks scuzzy enough. I also wanted to see some of the old Targaryen decor before Robert redecorated, which they referenced in multiple seasons, so it just looks like another show oversight. We were also shown Jaime killing the Mad King at the end of Robert's rebellion. We know they already changed canon for the show on how Jaime killed Aerys II. In the show, it's a backstab, not a throat slit like in the books. And apparently he did an extra stab when Aerys was on the ground. That's why you go with the throat slit. You don't need a double tap. Unless that stab in the back is from a different time, as these images are all messed up. What if Jaime had a repeat stabbing a second time when someone else is going crazy and wanting to burn the city down? Jaime could always end up on the throne for a period of time in the future as well. That was in George R. R. Martin's original draft, and original Jaime had a taste for kinslaying. However, despite Jaime looking much older than a teenager in that shot of him on the Iron Throne, there is blood on the sword similar to when he killed Aerys II, and he's wearing similar armor, so it probably was all from the same time. Another interesting thing about the Aerys II scenes is that his burn them all line was repeated faintly when the White Walkers were being shown. Now we can speculate why they made this choice. Was Bloodraven attempting to tell or warn Aerys about the White Walkers and that he needed fire to burn them? But hearing the voices drove him crazy and paranoid until one day he was screaming for them to burn them all. Is that why Bloodraven doesn't want Bran messing with the past? He knows the consequences and then tried to teach Bran how terrible those consequences can be. Or was Aerys II driven mad by Bran telling him to burn them or make sure he gets the wildfire stores? Or was Aerys II just a crazy mofo all on his own, and the whispering over other images is just showing us how Bran is seeing the past, present, and future all as one? Wildfire, so we know that the wildfire never went off during Aerys II's reign because Jaime killed his favorite pyromancer and then Aerys II to prevent King's Landing from being burned down, which means this vision is likely in the future. We also know that not all the wildfire locations have been found, so who likely in the future will do this? There's a good chance Cersei will burn something down. After all, she has said that she chooses violence. A dragon, likely Drogon, was flying overhead and there was a rope. This could be showing them sailing to Westeros and the rope belongs to a ship. Later we see the shadow of a dragon over a city. This is likely King's Landing, which means Daenerys will in fact get to Westeros. We also get other visions such as Bran falling from the tower, the White Walkers creating more of themselves. Bran also saw that Jon was able to kill one of them with his Valyrian blade. His mother having her throat slit I'm hoping is a reminder, but we also saw Ned and Robb's death, so it just as likely is Bran just seeing everything that happened to his family now that he has the power. We also saw Daenerys with her dragons right after they were born. Then what was most likely Ned next to a dying Lyanna with lots of blood. I talked about a theory in a previous video that Ned would have to perform a C-section on Lyanna. I hope this isn't the case and the image is just a lot of blood in one area making it look like a wound. The closer you look at the image, the more it looks like it might not be a wound, but just lots of blood. Obviously we'll have to wait for a better shot to tell. And I think the scary part is that after these visions, Bran came out of it and he seemed so dispassionate, which I know a large part was shock. It's overload, watching your loved ones being killed, but it also might be an effect of being able to see everything at once. When you can see everything, when you can basically affect time and it's just a big loop to you, how does that affect you? It changes the entire concept of yourself and your world, and we know now that Bran isn't entirely human. So in the future, how is having this power and these abilities going to affect Bran as a person and how he interacts with the world? And this is exactly why the Doctor always travels with a companion. Then Cold Gin came to the rescue. George R. R. Martin made a point of saying Cold Hands isn't Benjen. I'm assuming that they combined the characters to make it easier for non-book readers, though the showrunners did call him Cold Hands Benjen. So does this mean George did make this a thing, or they were stating that they combined the two? But if Benjen is alive in the books and this is the fate that happened to him, I wouldn't complain. I also think the Benjen reveal might answer some Cold Hands questions. It's likely he became the way he is after he was turning, and the children or Bloodraven stopped it. Then he was used by them to get Bran places. Cold Gin's mentioned that Bran will be waiting for him when the Night King comes, hints that Bran will have a much bigger role in the end of the series than originally thought. Lastly, ending with Daenerys. Daenerys' end scene was amazing, though I think they may have beat us over the head when Daario mentioned she'll need 1,000 ships, and Euron previously talked about building 1,000 ships in a previous episode. Though Yara and Theon should be coming soon. Maybe. The most exciting part of this entire episode for me, she has control of at least one dragon. I'd imagine the next are to follow. They have been giving glimpses of her connection with them, as all Targaryens that had a dragon had a connection to theirs. And we know that with dragons you can't be timid and unsure. And as her strength and power increases, so does theirs, but they, or at least Drogon, will respect her authority. And we've read about Targaryens that have been weak or sickly, and as they grew in power, so did their dragons. So we know the connection is there, and unfortunately in the show, they haven't been able to show as many mental links as we see in the books. And it also would have been nice to actually see her taming the dragon and how she went about approaching Drogon and how he interacted with her, but I'm guessing again this is a budget reason or a time constraint, although I feel they could have worked around both. But I will take what I can because I still thought that was a good scene. Also, in case you didn't notice, Daenerys' horse is super dead. So seeing Daenerys in control of Drogon is freaking me out with excitement. I can't wait for the other dragons to appear as well. Her speech was amazing as well. It mimicked Drogo's so much and was a wonderful callback, though I swear she gives motivational speeches every other episode. She's letting them know that one of the Great Khals' promises are going to happen, and they'll do it together. Though I wonder if the guys all the way in the back got to hear her awesome speech, or were wondering what the hell was going on. So those are my thoughts. Again, with moving, everything is pretty awful right now, so I might not be able to respond to comments as well this week, but hopefully next week we can be back on schedule now that all this moving stuff is over. For the giveaway, last week's winner is Rebecca Rivers, who has promised a cock for everyone, even Theon. Rebecca, just message me your email so I can send the gift card. New giveaway for a chance to win a $20 gift card to Amazon. All you have to do is like the video and answer in the comment section below, who do you think will end up on the Iron Throne at the end of the series? And if you answer the Sand Snakes, I will hunt you down. So thank you for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Besides that, come back for more Game of Thrones videos, Star Wars videos, comic videos, which are pretty sparse right now, but hopefully will ramp up again soon. The king of men, basically, at this point. And it's really sick to me that Mace is this mighty warrior, and he has this great victory, Robert's Rebellion. He laid siege to Storm's End, and if it wasn't for him, the entire war it would have been lost. And he was actually a double agent for Ned and Robert. I don't know if you knew that, just thought I'd share that.